Hey guys, it's me. I've been meaning to make this video for a while. I've been getting a lot of requests to do it, only because it's a topic that's relevant to what I did a while back, and you know, it's been out there for a while. In regards to a new movie coming out, in particular, it is the new CGI Popeye movie directed by Genndy Tartakovsky. Just a few months ago, or I think a month ago, he released a test footage of what the film was going to look like. Now I found that kind of confusing because I thought the film was going to have a release date. I mean, originally it was supposed to come out in 2014. I mean, from the looks of the technology that they have, it looks like some things were tweaked up upon, but honestly the film looks like it's ready to go. But I guess they're just having a problem getting it greenlit and having Sony actually release it, which in some ways I kind of find ironic, only because Genndy was hired to do a project that they've been planning to do for a while, so it's like they know that this is going to be released, but now are they having second guesses about it? Does it have to do with their Sony franchise of Spider-Man that they're really concerned about? I don't know. But yeah, so they're having a hard time getting it distributed, so they want to raise awareness and get fans interested, so I guess they can have an official release day, even though I thought it was supposed to come out in 2014, but irregardless. Regardless, I use that a lot. That's like a problem. I say irregardless when I mean regardless, but whatever. That's just me. I wrote down a couple notes as to what I think about it. I wrote down the least important things that matter to me about the test footage because for all intents and purposes, I like what they're going for. I like the look of the world, I like the characters that they're going for, and the story that they're going for too, which does seem to rely more on the Thimble Theater versus the Fleischer stories, which then in itself were just contained 6-minute to 17-minute shorts. Which I want to address a couple things. For one, something I noticed a lot of people complain about that honestly I don't really get is the no pipe or tattoo. I mean, it seemed pretty established that this is going to be a younger Popeye, so before he becomes more rugged and such. So, to me, I saw no pipe, and I really thought to myself, does it really matter? I mean, to be honest with you, we've seen so many incarnations of Popeye. We've seen him become a Navy man at one point, and we've seen him get like different looks and such, and go through different interpretations that having no pipe and no tattoo doesn't really do the character anything for me. And then people be arguing, oh, well, it doesn't make him more rugged, it makes him more like a liberal archetype. Really, that's just you imposing your opinions onto what they're trying to do. And from all intents and purposes, this is going to be test footage, so what they have here is what they plan on making, but who knows if it's going to stay in the final cut. Either way, it didn't really matter to me. There were so many other qualities about the test footage that really showed to me, like really, mattered more to me, that was just superficial. One thing that did kind of bother me though, and I think it was the animation on Olive Oil. While I like what they're going for, at the same time she does seem kind of like the damsel in distress that she's always been in the shorts. But another thing that kind of bothered me a little was the animation on her mouth when she yells. To be honest with you, that seems less like Genndy and less like Popeye and less like something Olive Oil would really do, and more like something Sony Pictures Animation would do. And sometimes I do love what they go for, but sometimes they're a little too experimental. And sometimes they experiment with things, the way things move. That's an instant where the animation might be, I don't know, the way that it looked in the CG, it just, it didn't work for me. But that was like one thing that really kind of bothered me. One thing also in particular, speaking of Olive Oil and Popeye, I did like the voice acting. Maybe this is just scratch footage, but to be honest with you, if they're going to make this official, I would love if they get Tom Kenny to play Popeye. I mean, at this point I said in my video I would have loved if they got Robin Williams to play Popeye. Now it's not possible because of his unfortunate passing away a couple months ago. But at the same time, Tom Kenny does a really good job capturing this sort of humanity to Popeye, which, to me, Popeye has always been a person. He's always been an everyman. And he's always had those quips that, we kind of look up to. It really gave him a lot of character. And I sensed that from this clip, but at the same time I felt more humanity. He didn't feel like an archetype of the tough guy. He felt like a human. And that's what Tom Kenny does, at least in his later career. Early on he was playing more archetypes like Heifer, but nowadays he's playing more human, like with the Ice King. That's a character that's like a testament to his voice acting, so if he can do this and maybe incorporate what worked about that, then it could be pretty good, to be honest with you. there were a ton of references in this. I mean, mostly references to the old shorts, but references to the famous studio shorts that came afterwards, and there were definitely references to the Thimble Theater comics as well as other interpretations of Popeye, including the live-action movie. Like, for instance, did you ever notice that Popeye's hair was blonde? Now, the only time I can think of a time when Popeye's hair was actually blonde as opposed to, like, what, 3 strings attached, was actually during the live-action movie with Robin Williams. He had blonde hair there, so maybe it was a subtle reference to that, but some people are saying, no, he's always had blonde hair, as described as blonde hair. I'm like, what, 3 strings? 3 trends is what, counts as hair? I don't know. As blonde hair? I don't know. But to be honest with you, I think that was kind of neat. I also really liked the villains, or at least the stereotypical bad guys they got playing in this short test footage. They were very burly and looked like things that came straight out of the Fleischer shorts, like figurines out of modeled after the Fleischers. Like the teeth were very Fleischer-esque, the beards were very pointy. In particular, the thing about the Fleischers in the early 30s and going on 40s is that they had a very distinct graphic look. They were very, they don't look like they were drawn on pencil. They look more like mechanical pens. They look like they were drawn like via Sharpie versus the loose pencil-like things. It was very mechanical and very graphic, which to me always stood out to me, and why I always loved that style, because to me it looks very graphic and it looks very cartoony, like from a comic strip. So seeing that incorporated in these villains actually worked really well. Even the poses, like the guy's carrying the bat, like the way he has his hands out versus in relation to his body, just worked really well on a structural level and like anatomically as well as exaggerated. The references to, you got Eugene the Jeep from the Thimble Theater comics, so like I mentioned in my other video, like how I'd make it, it does seem like they're going off of the source material. They were trying to get these characters that existed from the Thimble Theater comics, which works for a feature-length film. Now at the same time, you had 17-minute shorts that worked in itself as really, really, like, longer short films to shorter long films that also incorporated a very adventure epic tone that can work for a feature film. But at the same time, I think, and contrary to what I said in my video too, I said that the Thimble Theater comics weren't that good. Surprisingly, I did go back to them, and I might change my opinion here, oh my god, I have a fallible opinion, who knew? But I do think they actually have a lot of story in those shorts that can work really well for a feature film. And it looks like they're incorporating that with the characters Eugene the Jeep, and from the footage you also saw what the Sea Hag would look like. And it also looks like I would love to see if they got goons in there too. Those are just great characters. I would love to see those big goons too. Who knows, they might include those too. So something else that I noticed is that they are modernizing it. Like there are things in it that wouldn't exist in like the 30s and 40s or at the time when Popeye was being made in the 1910s by E. Sager. But it does look like they are making it for a modern audience, but they're not really giving him like I don't know, an iPhone or anything, but they are making, particularly in the belts, it looks like something you find at Home Depot. Like the villains are wearing these sort of belts that don't look like something that would come from the 30s and 40s. So it's a nice touch to give it a timeless feel, but at the same time something that can exist in our time, which is kind of what I envisioned, or at least I would want to see in a new Popeye movie. Like if they set it in the time, maybe make some things to make it seem like, is it our day and age? Like what Tim Burton does for most of his films. It captures that sort of timelessness that it can exist in any other time, but at the same time still feel a little modern. Could be a little distracting depending on what direction they go. Maybe they will give iPod and iPad, which would be like, did I say iPod and iPad? I mean Popeye. Popeye and iPad. iPod. Pop iPod. Whatever. The colors are nice. In particular, the colors do look and capture that 3-strip Technicolor thing that the Fleischers did in the early days, where you see a lot of reds and a lot of greens. That was just the way the 3-strip process worked, and I believe it had to do with them getting the rights to something like Technicolor right after Disney bought it, but I'm very loose here. I mean, I don't have like the history like right in front of me. I think I talked about it in one of my shorties. But the Fleischers did incorporate a more Technicolor look to their shorts when they did Popeye meets Sinbad and Popeye meets Alibaba, and incorporated those more greens and more reds that were more noticeable. So it was nice to see that in this short. Though though to be honest with you, something I felt a little distracted was that the sky looked like it was straight out of Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs. So I guess they were still working on that, but you know, room for improvement. I don't know, kind of like just kind of noticed in the back of my mind, it's like, yeah, that looks like it was straight from Cloudy too, and same filmmakers, yeah, same sky, whatever. One thing I do want to talk about too, and this really did it for me, is that the backgrounds. Now, the one thing I loved about the early Popeye shorts is that Popeye had the one thing I really liked about the early shorts is that Popeye had backgrounds that were three-dimensional. The Fleischers used a technique called the multiplane camera that worked a lot like Disney did it, but instead of like having sorry about that. I'll probably have to cut that part out. So I wanted to say that I did like the backgrounds and the relation to the characters that did capture that multiplane camera feel, which I think really did it for me, because it really did make these characters feel like they can be translated into 3 dimensions. I mean, that's what the Fleischers wanted to do, was incorporate these characters into a 3-dimensional feel. So in computer animation, where it inevitably is 3-dimensional, there is that graphic comic strip look to it, but there is this grand 3-dimensionality to it. So long story short, I think this short's going to look really good. I'm really excited with what they're going to go with it. And to be honest with you, I don't know. Whether or not it's going to be coming out in 2016 or 2026, I want to see this movie happen. Those are my thoughts. Take care.